I always had this fear that I saw Count Chocula putting his fingers on the side of the ceiling, looking up at me like this, but there were two of them. And when I heard French talking about, them looking like cartoon characters, my jaw dropped.
Yes. Yes.
So maybe that's why I'm
And
phobic.
so it looked like Count Chocula. It wasn't
It
like you
looked
just
like, yeah, it looked like two Count Choculas, and they were just looking up over at me, and I was like, nope, nope, nope.
The Codega is a guide and a storyteller, escorting you through the night, lighting the way, warding off thieves, ghosts, demons, and other oddities. Along the journey, his companions would often share with him the most curious of stories that he'd record in his Codex. Perhaps you just might find yourself traveling with the Codega and sharing one of yours.
Welcome, curious souls and fellow travelers of the strange. Tonight's guest isn't just another experiencer. She's a walking archive of the unexplained. From early brushes with the demonic to encounters with beings not of this world. Michelle has lived a life that reads like a supernatural epic. UFOs, hauntings, time distortions, and an awakening that kind of cracked open reality as she knew it. Now, but through this all, she's held fast with her faith, sharpened her discernment, and emerged with insights, not just about the dark, but about the divine as well. She's seen the veil ripple and sometimes tear. And tonight, she's here to share how her life has been forever altered by what lies beyond it. As everyone know, I'm Rye the Codega, and you're listening to Codega's Codex of Curiosities. And so I want you guys to light your candles, settle in close, and prepare, because Michelle's story just might rewire how you see this world and the next. And again, everyone, I want to say thank you for tuning in. It's fantastic to have you guys all here. I appreciate every one of you. What I'd love for you guys to do is I want you guys to comment in this episode. Tell me what you feel. Have you had any of these experiences that Michelle's had? Is there any similarities, any differences? That's important, is where we draw those lines of like connection between I've had this experience as well, or I've had this experience. And it brings, maybe, I'm not saying we get answers, but maybe a little step closer to what could be an answer. Okay, everyone? Thank you again so much. And without further ado, I'm going to bring Michelle to the stage. Michelle, welcome to Codega's Codex of Curiosities.
Thank you, Rye. Thank you for the introduction. That was just amazing.
Thank you. Yes, I work on them. I had that one ready a while ago because we were supposed to have an interview about a month ago, maybe a little less, and we had some technical difficulties, which seems to be the norm with just about everything. But yeah, I had that all written up, ready to go, and here we go. I get to use it now.
That's awesome, and I appreciate that. So I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So Michelle, why don't you tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself?
My name is Michelle Phillips, and I was born and raised in Central California. I'm right on the southwestern corner of the Nevada Triangle. So I'm right next to the Sierra Nevada mountains, and there's a ton of weird stuff right around here. I'm pretty sure I have a portal in my bedroom, but we can get to that later. But I've just had supernatural interactions my entire life, and I've never been close-minded to it. And even like my father would call me crazy, and no uncertain terms as a kid growing up. It was just like, because I can see things doesn't mean I'm crazy. It just means I'm more in tune to the surroundings.
I agree. I heard that so often. Oh, you just have a vivid imagination. Oh, yeah, you're just, maybe you stop watching TV or stop watching those movies.
Right.
It's just directing off in this a certain way or that. But
Right.
okay, so let's go to that. Let's go to should we go where it all began, where it all
Yeah.
started?
I think
Okay.
it all started when I was about 12, and I feel like I was baptized in fire because I woke up one night to a demon attack. And it was one of those situations where there's no doubt in my mind it happened. I woke up on a waterbed. So it was an old 70s waterbed where it was like a sack of water on top of a plywood, right? And
Yes.
so I
Yeah.
was in my mom's room, and there was a closet full of mirrors. And I woke up because I thought the dog jumped on the bed. And as I'm waking up, I realized we don't have a dog. And so the room got really, really hot. And as I'm looking in the mirror, I feel something pin me down to the plywood. And it was at my shoulders and right in between, like right in the middle of my thighs. And it was like a man pinning me down to the board of the bed. And so when I opened my eyes, it was the size of a full grown man, but it was on fire. And there was no hair because he was, liquid lava, and he was a demon. And he was about 2 feet away from my face, and he just smiled at me, and even his teeth were fire, and it was just horrifying. So
Extremely horrifying, especially
yeah,
12-year-old. That is like when you're saying baptism by fire, you're not lying.
yeah.
Now when you were looking, you could see us directly, or were you looking
I
through a
looked
mirror?
in the mirror first because he had me pinned in such a way where I couldn't really move except for my head and maybe my shoulders. Um, but not even my shoulders because it was like I felt like a Tyrannosaurus Rex. I could only move my hands, but I looked over because I didn't see what was on me. And in the mirror, I saw his full body. But then I kind of looked up and his face was right, maybe, 12, 14 inches from me. But then somehow I got my hands up and I just kind of pulled the cover up over my eyes and turned and cried and fell back to sleep. And then I felt him like jump off me, but I was out. But ever since then, I've had like thermostat regulation issues, like my hypothalamus is broken. So,
Really? Oh,
yeah, I don't know if
okay.
it was like that intense heat that caused me to have like heat illness issues later in life, but I have no temperature regulation now. So I
Inter-
overheat real fast.
Interesting. Now,
Yeah,
yeah, that is extremely crazy. And I know there's some people who are like, oh, I can't believe you just fell asleep, and
right.
but
It's like you shut
sometimes,
down. You shut down to
yes,
get away, and
yes, exactly. Or sometimes it's almost like a spell on you, just kind of like you
yeah,
cannot
maybe.
stay awake.
Yeah. And it could be a
Very
spell from your guardian angel trying to save you from that trauma,
true,
because I
true.
mean,
And a waterbed is kind of something where you can't think like, okay, maybe there isn't, but like a waterbed is definitely something, with there's something on the waterbed or
right.
moving around, because
And
the
how
whole
much
thing is
weight would
moving
it take to,
to push
pin
you
me
down
down
to
at
the
four
plywood.
points? Yeah. So
Yes,
it was
yes.
just, it was kind of
To
scary.
displace, yeah, to displace that much amount of water, there has to
Right.
be a lot of force. Wow.
Right. Exactly. It was really weird. And so that's how it all started. So
And
after that, it was
did
just
you
kind of all very mild.
that's just
It was nothing. I
now
couldn't tell anybody because nobody's
that
going to
that
believe a kid,
that's what I was going to ask you. Did you talk to anybody after this point? But and I completely understand that. Who do you talk to? Who do you tell that this happened to? It's not like I was walking home and a dog jumped out and pinned me to the ground, and you can
Right.
tell that, and people be like, "Oh, okay, well,
Oh, that's
you know,
horrible. Avoid that
yes,
block.
and we'll deal with that dog, and we'll make sure this doesn't happen again." But in this scenario, people, there's not many people you could talk to.
Right. And I wasn't a big churchgoer, so I wasn't going to go tell a priest. We didn't go to Catholic church at all. And I wouldn't want to because they'd probably try to exorcise me.
True,
So I just kept it
true.
to myself for a long time. Later on, my mom told me, when I told her the story, oh gosh, I was probably 35 at the time. When I told her the story finally, she was like, oh, my sister and I thought we got rid of that. It was a ghost. And I said, no, that was no ghost. And you didn't get rid of it. And so it was like, if I had told her, maybe she would have believed me. But my mom embellishes a lot. So I don't really know if she knew about it. But there's no way a ghost could have got, you couldn't just talk that guy out of the house. I think you'd have to get some
So your mom
intervention.
and your sister kind of knew that stuff is going on.
Well, her sister, she said. So her
Or her
sister
sister. Okay.
lives in South Carolina and lived with us for maybe a year, I think, at the time. But she said she knew what was going on, but she hasn't really, given me any details about it other than my aunt saw it and then they thought they got rid of it. So I don't know. I have no idea what that means. It was not gone.
Yeah. So they knew of something. Yeah, maybe they made it worse. That can happen where you try to exercise something and you don't have the ability or you don't know what you're doing, and you can actually make things worse.
That's
I
a good
I know
point.
that firsthand.
I
Yeah.
had never heard of that, but you're right. That could have absolutely happened, especially since they were in the South and they thought they knew all this backwoods knowledge. Maybe I don't know, but it didn't work. So
Yeah, apparently. Okay, so where do we go from here then? What was like so this happened and did this demon, this thing ever appear again?
never saw him
Okay,
again.
lucky. Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like, why didn't he hurt me? Why didn't he terrify me more? Why didn't he come through more and visit? Because obviously I was an easy mark if he got me one time and pinned me down. I have no idea. So I heard later, as an adult, that it's because I have this attachment that protects me through family lineage. But I learned that like within the last 3 years. So back in history, though, if you want to go to the next event, it was probably when I was
Yes.
16. I saw a UFO for my first UFO when I was 16.
Okay.
And I was terrified because I saw fire in the sky at 14, and that traumatized all of us, I think.
Oh, yeah, I was sorry. I wasn't connecting the dots of like Fire in the Sky, the movie.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah,
Oh, yeah,
I saw
sorry.
Fire in the Sky. I'm like, okay,
No, it
but
was
no,
just
the
a
movie
light.
Fire in the Sky. Yes, with
Yes.
Travis Walton.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. I was 14, and that was a terrible idea to watch that. So I've been phobic of grays all of my life, even before that. And I have no rational reason for it. They look terrifying. And so when I was 16, we went up to, let's see, it was my best friend and four boys that I grew up with. Three were my cousins, and one was a family friend. So the six of us went camping up in the Sierra Nevada mountains, about 3 miles up away from civilization. So we were all alone on this mountain as young children, and we saw a UFO that night. And it was just a light in the sky that was like super slow, but going up in elevation, and it was blinking consistently, yellow, blue, red, yellow, blue, red. It just kept blinking for about 15 minutes. And I was freaking out because here are the aliens, and I'm on a mountain, and there's nobody to help me, and I'm not really relying on these
And
four
and
guys.
did it just go on one course or did this change course at
It
all? Or
didn't really change course, but it would hover and then it would go up a little and hover some more, but it was just super
oh, okay.
slow, and it was just making a show for about 15 minutes. And by the end of the event, I'm crying in the tent thinking we're all going to die. So
Of
then we
course.
saw a flare, and it looked like somebody shot a flare gun up at it, from the lake down below us. So that was weird. And then it just went away. So the next morning, as we're hiking out, there's emergency helicopters circling the lake from the flare gun. But then I'm being told that there's no blue flame in a flare, or yellow for that matter. Typically, there's one color. But there was no
So
explanation for the blue.
the flare gun, what color was the okay, so this flare, what color was
It was
that?
red. It was red, and it went up in a typical, upwards fashion of a flare, and then arced and came
Okay.
down, yeah, exactly. And it looked like it was aiming for this light. Somebody else saw it and didn't know what it was, but it was very odd. But I just, totally dismissed it as somebody's flare for help because the next morning the helicopters were searching, and so they were searching for
It's a
somebody who had a flare gun.
little coincidental though. Yes.
Right. It was weird, and I was never happier to get off a mountain in my life than
Fair
I was
enough.
at that
Fair
point.
enough.
And
So they
so,
and they said, "Oh, we're searching for someone who shot a flare or a flare gun," or is that
well, we didn't see anybody to talk to about it, but there were big, huge emergency helicopters circling Pinecrest Lake right up where we were at. So it looked like they were searching for somebody very close in the vicinity because we walked right past the search area, basically. Probably not supposed to do that, but nobody stopped us. We had to get out.
that would be interesting to learn more about that, and about that time as well to see if there really was someone missing or
Yeah,
there's something
and
else.
how'd they go
Yeah.
missing? Like 411 style, you know,
Exactly,
which is
exactly.
crazy to think
UFO in the
about.
sky, and then someone just disappears.
Yes. And there were no cell phones at the time. So we'd have to have run
Yeah,
down the mountain, and I don't think we were even keeping track of the time for that reason. So I pray there was no missing time, and I don't ever want to be regressed hypnotically to find out otherwise.
yeah. You're like, yeah, you didn't go into the tent. You went
Right.
somewhere else. Yes.
Right. Exactly. Like there's things I don't ever need to know. So I've been better without.
Fantastic. Okay, so now where does that take us? So that was at age 16, UFO. 12 fire demon, 16 UFO.
And
What's
there's
next?
actually something that happened at 8 or 9 years old that I always forget to bring up, and it was a weird night. I had a friend who had a slumber party, and
Okay.
she had about three girls that she was having stay the night. So there were four of us total, and she had a 16-year-old sister. And for whatever reason, it was incredibly stormy the night of this party, and they had converted their garage into a playroom. So in the garage, there were like windows on two sides of the room, and there was a dog run, or a non-dog run, really. There was a side of the house that was furthest away from, or I'm sorry, a side of the garage that was windowed, furthest away from the house, but it was chained up so the dog couldn't get on that side of the house. So they told us, sleep on that wall because it'll be quietest with the dog. So we put our sleeping bags up against the wall with the windows above us, and there was this huge tree in the neighbor's yard, and it was storming and lightning, and the weather was crazy. So we saw this tree just swaying like crazy, but it looked like there was something in the tree, and it looked like a football, or something very solid out on this branch that was just swaying with the tree. And it was torrential downpour. It seems like if it was a balloon, it would have come out. If it was a ball, it probably would have been shaken loose, but it
Would have
just kept
fallen.
swaying with it. Right, there was no reason this thing should have been stuck in this tree. And it seemed kind of like maybe it was autumn, so there weren't that many leaves, and it was just blowing everything around. Eventually, we convinced ourselves we saw eyes on this thing. We all freaked out and
Okay.
ran out. And so we went to the girl's bedroom where her 16-year-old was sleeping. And we said, we're not sleeping in there. It's terrifying. Oh, and the dog was barking nonstop the whole night, out in the rain, standing there, wouldn't shut up. And it's like, why
Just
wouldn't he
going
be
crazy at this.
going
Okay.
crazy? And it was lightning. It's like, why would the dog not be hiding in his doghouse or inside? It was really strange. And so we go into the house and we sneak into her room, and I dive into the bottom bunk, which is where her 16-year-old sister sleeps. And then my friend got on her top bunk, and the other two girls slept on the floor. So the 16-year-old crawls in bed with me, and I'm teeny, and I'm like falling into the little crevice between the wall and the mattress. And then at some point, I wake up, and the sister is walking everybody out back to the garage. And I just pretended to be asleep because there was no way I was going back into that room. And then
Yep.
a little
I
while
don't blame you.
later,
Yes.
yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm So a little while later, I wake up again, and they're walking single file back into the room with the sister at the back, I thought. But they all had the same blank look on their face, super slow, methodical, single line procession. And then they just all got back into their spaces and went back to sleep. It was the weirdest thing ever. It's like, why would you leave the room, and why would you come back? And why did you look like zombies? And
Yes. Extremely, extremely
so
crazy.
I think maybe I avoided an abduction by being hidden in the crevice where they couldn't see me. But
Yeah.
that was a weird night.
Extremely weird, and it's for
Yeah.
them to all like file back in.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's like I don't know really who was at the very end of that line, because I was just pretending to be asleep again. I don't know. I can't rationalize that memory. And so I try not to think too much, because I don't want to add to it, false memories or just filling in the blanks, because that's a thing. So it creeped me out. But
for sure, for
and
sure.
the
Yeah,
next day,
that's a
nobody
strange
talked about
experience.
it. Never talked about it again. Never discussed it. It was really weird. But I was,
And this,
9.
and
So
the size of this thing in the
mhm.
tree. What you said, it was ball shape.
Yeah,
And it
it
was
was
like
like
maybe.
oblong, but it looked really wider than tall. So it looked like it was a tall tree. And so it's hard to say, but from my perspective, it looked to be about maybe 12 inches wide and 10 inches tall. And so it
Okay.
just looked like a big, maybe almost like a
Football,
deflated
a big
beach ball.
football, but just
Right.
much bigger. Yes.
Much bigger. And it was just very strange because it was so solid. It's like, it was
And
weird.
eyes, and it had eyes.
Yeah, when the lightning would flash and we'd see something in the front, we're like, nope. Nope,
Okay.
get
And
out.
when you saw something in the front, was there any color associated with that at all?
No, it was just so dark. It was like when it flashed, it looked gray and maybe some big black sockets. It was just too much.
Now,
I wasn't sticking
now
around to get a better look.
I know you're like 8 years old,
Right.
but did anybody go look in the morning to see if there was anything in the tree in the
There was
morning?
nothing in the tree. We all got up, and at like 6 in the morning, we saw there was nothing in the tree. There were no leaves left in the tree, even. It was just bare, and there was nothing there. There was nothing on the ground. I mean, we were looking for a Mylar balloon at that point, and it was just too weird. So we did look, but yeah, no. Oh, and one more other thing before I was 12. So my grandparents built their house up in the foothills of Sierra Nevadas, and from the time I was like 5 to 7. And so the guest bedroom upstairs had a deck just outside of the room, and the deck was about 4 feet below the window, lower pane of the window. And it was this really nice window that went across the entire width of the room. And I always had this fear that I saw Count Chocula putting his fingers on the side of the ceiling, looking up at me like this, but there were two of them. And when I heard French talking about, them looking like cartoon characters, my jaw dropped.
Yes. Yes.
So maybe that's why I'm
And
phobic.
so it looked like Count Chocula? It wasn't
It
like you
looked
just
like, yeah, it looked like two Count Choculas, and they were just looking up over at me, and I was like, nope, nope, nope. So my grandparents had to always close the curtain before I'd even go into the room to go to sleep. But it was just weird. And the fact that it was 4 feet tall, later in life, I was like, that's not cool. That's
Yes,
not good.
I agree. That
Right.
is creepy, creepy, creepy. Yes.
Right. Yeah. And so I try not to think about those things as possible abductions ever.
Not to go too far into it, but with your fear of the grays and,
Right.
these things taking 4 foot high, taking the look of
Right.
this, like, yeah.
Right. Why would I be so terrified if there wasn't an issue? So that is definitely something I've thought about.
Yeah, but we'll just put that back here for now. We'll just
Yeah.
leave it back there. Yeah.
Very vivid imagination.
Yeah. That's exactly it. Yes, just your mind playing tricks on you. Nothing of
Absolutely.
important. Nothing to see here.
No, that's right. It's not Count Chocula. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we got a plethora of experiences so far. Where do we go from
Yes.
there?
Okay. So probably ghosts. I've seen and heard ghosts most of my life.
Okay. And you've heard.
Yeah, I hear
Like
them mostly all the time.
not like moving, but like speaking. Is that what you
Oh,
mean?
both. I hear voices, and my my last ex decided to call me crazy over it, so I started making recordings of these voices, and they're audible. It's not just me.
Really?
Yeah, they're audible. But I see a lot of movement. I see a lot of things in photographs and videos. But yeah, I hear them, and I've been touched a few times. Like one time I was in my garage waiting for some laundry, and somebody just tapped my heel twice, and I kind of laughed because I know I'm not alone, but it's never scary. So yeah, I've had a few interactions.
It's funny you say that because I can relate to that. Like not audibles though, but just like things happening, being tapped, and it's just like okay, like it's gotten so commonplace that it's just kind of like all right, that's
Right.
what it
As
is.
long as it's not, terrifying me or trying to, then, it's cool. I don't mind. You just kind of go with the flow. It's their world too.
I agree with you. Yeah. Okay. So lots of ghost experiences. Is there any one that kind of stands out above them all, or
Yeah, I'd say there's a few. I've had two full body apparitions that I saw, and one of them was I was at my friend's house, and she's a very active house, and we were waiting for my boyfriend and his best friend, and her living room. Sorry, there's a jet going overhead.
no
Her
problem?
living
No
room
problem.
has windows on the corner, so you can see people on both sides because she lives also on a corner lot. And they were coming from the western direction, and I saw the three of them because they brought a friend coming up to the side of the front door on the adjacent wall. So as I see them going around the corner, I go to the door to open it for him, and there's only two of them there. And I said, "Where's your friend?" And they said, "What friend? It's just us." And I said, "He's right behind you. He's got blonde hair. He's about your height. He was wearing a white T-shirt. He had a big goofy smile on his face, and he's walking along with you guys." And they said, "It sounds like you just described a friend that passed away a decade ago." And I was just, yeah, I was so confused. I'm like, "No, you're messing with me. Where is your friend? He's solid. He's solid, looked exactly like them, and he was just gone." So that was kind
Did
of
they
crazy.
show you a picture at all for you to
No,
confirm, like, oh,
no,
that would have been great
unfortunately.
to see that.
That would have been cool, but it would have been just my word. So that's another thing. I can't sit here and convince anybody that's not open minded already to believe anything, So,
I completely agree. It's just it's pretty much most of it is anecdotal evidence, like myself as
right.
well. The experiences that I've had are all anecdotal, and it's kind of like either you believe me or you don't, and it's not my I'm not trying to convince you because I know what I saw. I know the things that I've seen, and I know they're real. Because you can't see them doesn't make them less real.
Exactly. And it's like your belief system has no effect on my reality. So, you got to really just kind of either take it or leave it, but don't hear and try to discount me because you're never going to change my mind. I know what I saw. And so it's good to find people that also feel the same way and have experiences to share because you're not crazy, neither am I, despite what my ex tells me. So,
No, not at all. And I was just talking with a guest who I just interviewed. I just interviewed her last week, and it's the same thing. Is she's like her boyfriend, just like okay, okay,
right.
kind
Yeah.
of like maybe I kind of believe he's kind of maybe placating you by just saying okay, but
That's
yeah,
still better than gaslighting, And so
true.
it's like if I said, "Hey, the sky is purple with unicorns flying through it," my boyfriend should have said, "Okay, honey." Just placate, just support. That's all I ask. Anyway, so there's there was another time that I had a position as a customer service experience or customer service representative at a box plant. And I would go at night to pick up my boyfriend from the same place because he'd work the swing shift. And one night I arrived to pick him up, and there was a man standing in the office looking at the window like this out the window. And I thought, who's in the office? I don't recognize him. And then within half a second, I realized um, there's a desk up against the window. There's no way that man could be standing there because there's a desk right there. And so that just kind of surprised me. I would hate to be stuck in a factory for my entire afterlife, but maybe it was his farm or something once.
Perhaps. Like, how old was this factory? Did anybody ever talk about any deaths in the factory or anything like
Oh,
that?
it was haunted. No, there were no deaths that I know of, but there were definitely people there all of the time. They had this huge light in one of in the factory that was 25 feet up, and it would just swing. It was heavy. It was a couple 100 pound, big metal light, and it would just be swinging in an arc where nothing else was moving all the time. It's like the cats. There were like community cats, we'll call them, that were in the warehouse all the time, taking care of the rodent population. They would freak out and look up at the light and scurry. It was very weird. We had a company lunch one day there, or it was a Christmas party, and the entire company sitting in one area, and about half of us heard some women laughing across the entire building, and it was just like it was very interesting that half of us heard it and half didn't because a lot of people reacted and the rest just listened to the boss continue. It was just like seeing that how many people recognize that paranormal activity
That
was
there's something
interesting.
there.
Yeah, because everybody's like, we're all here. It was like two women talking and laughing. It was really weird. But it's not
Very
always
strange.
scary, I mean, sometimes ghosts enjoy being ghosts, I think. But
Sometimes they enjoy being ghosts. I better hope so. If you're stuck like that for the afterlife, I better hope you enjoy it because
right.
otherwise you're in for a world of well,
You know
yeah,
what's interesting about
purgatory.
that? I just thought of something today. I heard somebody talking about black-eyed people, black-eyed kids.
Oh
There
yeah,
was
the black eyed kids. Yes.
right, and a farmer that had black eyes. And the question was, if this is a ghost, why do you have black eyes? And I thought, what if all the black-eyed everythings are like in hell? They're ghosts that are stuck in hell, and that's like the sign. They're here, but they can't get out of their traps. So
Hmm.
just a thought. I
Just
had
a thought.
I just thought, yes. But I like throwing my thoughts out there because we feed off each
I
other
do as
and
well. I do as
cascades.
well. That you like to try to so what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And perhaps something you know something sticks, and then we can kind of go further with that. It's
Right.
interesting. Hmm.
I had what I can only speculate was a black eyed kid experience once. and it was about 6 or 7 years ago here in this house. And I have no idea if it was a black-eyed kid, but that was what my like intuition told me immediately. So it was a Sunday night, and I was waiting for my boyfriend to get home from dinner at his dad's, and he was due anytime. So the bathroom is adjacent to the front door, and I was in the bathroom, and I was getting ready to close the window, and I heard a knock on the door. So I looked out the window thinking, oh, it must be him. And his truck wasn't there. And in my driveway, further down, at the end of the driveway, it's a very short driveway, there was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And that was, it looked like um, a deer on a unicycle. Like, it sounds
What?
ridiculous. It was like the shape. Okay, what it really looked like at first was a ghillie suit, or a ghillie suit, somebody in a ghillie suit, but it was tanned, like the color of a deer. And it had long shaggy hair.
I don't want to say. I don't want to. I was like, I don't want to say it. I'm not going to say it. No, a deer, and I'm like, no, a female deer.
Yes. So sorry.
That's okay.
We all know the color of a doe.
Yes.
That was too funny. Okay, so yes. I look out.
So was it like? Have you ever heard I think they're called not deers or not a deer.
Not a deer. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I think I saw. It's not a deer. Yeah, it was scary. So it looked, and it just, at first I thought it was a teenager, like in a ghillie suit or something, just playing a prank. And I looked, and he flowed forward and back, like he looked like the movement of somebody on a unicycle. There was no bike. There was no unicycle. It was not a deer. And then I panicked because I was like, what the hell just knocked on my door? Because my door is on the other side of this wall, and that thing is over there. And so I immediately thought it's a black-eyed kid at the door, and I freaked out and shut the door and got down and hid and cried and called my boyfriend, like, where are you? He was nowhere near.
So I wouldn't call that a black-eyed kid encounter. Like, it's a black-eyed kid. No, I know that
it's not a deer.
Like, but it was not a deer.
Yes, but I don't know what was at the door. And so the only thing that I was getting, like, psychically was black-eyed kid at the door. Pardon, sorry, I couldn't get to mute fast enough. Anyway, yeah, it was scary. That scared me. I've had a couple experiences that were terrifying. That was one of them.
That would definitely be one of them. Yeah, not a deer is not something I want to see. Yes.
Yeah, it was very strange. It's just its movement. It was like nothing I could ever explain. It looked really tall. It looked to be about 6 or 7 feet tall. That's why I thought it was on a bike. And it looked like its legs moved like it was bicycling, but it just flowed forward and then back about 3 feet. And that's when I panicked. So, but I'm guessing you're probably aware of Stephen Greer, right? Stephen Greer?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So at some point he saw an alien, and I was like, that was not a deer too. And so when he was describing his alien encounter, I was like, that's about what it looked like.
Really?
Yeah. But I live in the middle of the city in California. Like, why would not a deer be on my sidewalk looking through my window at me at 8:30 at night?
Well, not everything. I so many people believe that it has to happen only in the forest, but
right.
No, I think, yeah, it's a little more common. Things are more common to happen there, but I think that we also attract these things.
Absolutely.
Because we're kind of tuned into a frequency, and it's like a magnet. And
it is. Yeah, they like to be seen. And if we can see it, they're like, hey, let me show you me. Yeah. It's pretty interesting.
It is. Okay, so where do we go from there? Can we top that? I don't know.
Oh, I'm sure. What about the Mandela effects? So there was I don't know if you've experienced Mandela effects personally. I've had several recently, and they seem to be coming quicker and quicker. But I do not believe that Mandela effects are all of us misremembering the past. I think the past is actually changing. And I believe it's time travel, but it's hard to say. And so the way I know that I'm not misremembering anything is because I was holding something silicone in my hand one time, and it changed its material configuration in my hand. Like it was a smoking apparatus, and there was a hole in the side, I had my thumb on the hole, and within 30 seconds, the hole was gone, but there was a new hole in the front of it. And it was my friend's piece. And so it wasn't even mine. But I was like, where'd the hole go? And she goes, it's right there. And I'm like, no, it's not. So the only way that something can change physically like that, I think, is tinkering with the past. I don't see how, unless I'm just jumping timelines, but why would that still change in my hand, you know?
Or it's the or we live in a simulation and things aren't, and there's something affecting the coding, like the quantum computer that's actually coding all this, that's constructing
Yes.
all this, which
Yes.
is, I just had a dream about us living in a simulation, and that it's all created by AI, and if we're in tune enough, we can actually not fool the AI, but adjust it, and like, if you can actually manipulate it.
Well, that leads to my big event, as I call it, where I do
Okay,
believe I saw
let's hear
the
this big event.
simulation. Yeah, and that's very interesting because I never really thought of it that way. But so when I had my awakening, it was like there were several things leading up to it, but the day of was just so mind blowing. Um, Nothing tops that yet. You know, it was like all neurons were firing perfectly, so that I was, by the end of it, I was walking through all the dimensions that had converged into one. And so I went over to a friend's house, and on my way there, it was kind of foggy. It was like October, so it was kind of foggy. And I was getting my son into the car, and in the street, I thought I saw the fog, but it started looking like creatures, white wispy creatures. So I remember you were talking about when you woke up and that thing was above you, and you saw it ending in white wispies. That's what it looks like. That's what I call the
Okay, yep.
ether.
Okay.
Yeah. And so when things start manifesting, I feel like that ether is starting to get thicker, and they can walk through it because it's more physical material to manifest in. So as I was leaving, I saw these two huge monsters um, materializing in that ether kind of stuff, that wispy stuff in the middle of the street. And I thought, okay, well, I'm losing my mind. Let's get in the car and get out of here. You know? So
Okay,
gotta
yeah.
get away from this scene. So we get in the
Yes,
car,
yes,
and we start.
exactly.
Yeah, I was like, that's not normal. So we're about half a block away, and I'm sitting at a stoplight waiting to go through this pretty busy intersection. And I look up, and not 200 feet above me, there's a UFO. And I was like, and it looked like a big diamond, and every point of the diamond had a light on it. And I thought, oh, holy crap, we're getting we're being invaded, because how can nobody see this thing right above me? It looks like it's coming in for a landing. Oh shit. So I just go through the intersection. I'm trying to get away from it. And then I start following it because I'm like, nobody is reacting to this thing that is clearly not of human origin, you know. So I get to the store where it looks like it's about to land in a field right behind the store, and then I lost it. It's like, okay, well, that's weird. I don't know where the military is. I live right next to the National Guard. So anytime now, guys, start mobilizing. We're gonna die.
But what's crazy though is when you're saying like you're the only one seeing it. Again, I can relate to that. I was in a parking lot of a grocery store looking up and seeing UFOs, and I'm the only one. No one
Right.
else is like, I'm like, I see this, and no one else sees this as
No one's
well.
reacting. It's so
Yeah,
weird.
yeah.
Like, oh yeah, that's a gift, right? Really?
Yay! Yes. Can
Yay!
I return that? Do I have a gift receipt that I can return that one? But
Sadly, no.
I yes, I often wonder how much is really out there that we don't see, that we're just not tuned into. And it's not like, I don't want to say like I'm special because I can see these things.
Oh, I do.
I okay, okay.
We're special.
I feel that we all have that ability. It's just a matter. It's like a muscle. It's the more you work it,
Yeah, and the
and
more you
strengthen it,
believe
the
it's
more you're going to
real,
see. Yeah,
absolutely. And you also have to realize that it's truly a gift from God, because He trusts you enough and believes in you enough to give you that extra information. You know, He's not giving it to everybody, because what are some people going to do with it? Who knows? So I feel like it's absolutely by His grace and His love and trust that we are gifted with extra abilities to help fight His war that we're in. You know,
true. Okay, that
and so
I like that.
thank you. But anyway, so this night, the simulation, back to that. Okay, so I go outside after, I see these wispy things, and then I'm going to my friend's house, and I see the UFO. The UFO lands. I'm not going to go get up close to it because I'm going to get as much distance between me and this thing as I can. So I get over to my friend's house and I tell them about it. They're like, "Yeah, you're crazy. Come on inside." So I go inside, and about an hour and a half later, we're leaving, and I walk outside, and the whole world has changed. It's like 9 o'clock at night, and it's dark, but the entire world looks different. It sounds different. It sounds more open, like open volume. Like there's a lot more space in between me and my car that there used to be for new sounds to be coming in. And I'm seeing things like every single light I saw looked like that UFO, first of all. And I thought I was losing my eyesight. I thought it was like some onset macular degeneration. I'm going to be blind in a couple hours. I got to get home. I'm like, I
Wow.
cannot
Okay.
process what's going on with my eyesight. And so when I get out to my car, my two friends walk us out, and I look up at the sky. And because everything is like an entirely different spectrum of colors, it's beautiful. And as I'm looking, I see the stars, like the most bright stars, and Venus and Mars are both out. And they all look like that UFO. They're all diamond shaped. And there's actually a really famous picture that's pretty recent in UFO land that looks exactly like the diamond shape I'm just talking about. And I'll try and find it to send it to you at some point.
For sure. Yes.
But every single point on that diamond was a different color. And so Venus had suddenly become a diamond that was four white lights, two yellow and a blue. And Mars was like four red, two yellow and a white. Like it was weird. And then as I'm looking, it almost looked like the sky with all of the stars were a backdrop for these UFOs that are now planets and stars. And the moon was about half full. And as I'm looking at the sky, the whole sky goes whoop, like down and then up behind the moon. Like the stars and the moon all stayed in the same place, but the whole thing looked like a piece of paper that fell down and back up. And it looked like a shadow box. We're in a shadow box. And so I don't know. I don't know if
I
the UFOs
swear I've heard something like this before, and I'm trying to
really.
recall who. Yes, someone else
Wow.
talked about something similar to like the sky kind of like like
Yeah.
kind of like
It was like
shifting. Yes,
it was a very clear sign that this is not real. But what was most amazing to me about that moment was after talking to my friends for about 15 minutes outside, I looked up at the moon. I looked up at, I'm sorry, Mars and Venus again, and they'd shifted angles. They were directional. Like the points on the diamonds had changed from maybe this orientation to like skewed. So it was changing with like the rotation of the Earth, or the planets around us, whatever it was, had changed the direction of these planets that are supposed to be one point of light that doesn't blink. So that was mind blowing. But also, I saw all kinds of entities all over everywhere. There were, we were talking about the tendrils again. There were two entities behind my car that were from the top up. They looked human, but they looked very evil and hateful, and just they stared at my car. And then the bottoms were all white tendrils, nothing else, and they were stationary. And so I got my son and I into the car, and as I'm backing up my car, I'm getting closer to the things because they're not moving or disappearing. They're solid and staying. But I would look down the street, and I was asking my friends, is that a person down there? They're like, no, there's nobody down there. But it looked human form, but distorted or mutated. It looked mostly like a human, but just very off. Maybe a little, maybe it was the posture or the frame of the body was a little too skinny and skeletal. It was creepy. But I saw shadow people. I saw translucent people. I never saw a gray alien. So it's just like,
or so you think.
right.
Yeah,
Yes, I know. I don't know about that shadow people in gray. So I'm going to just think, la, 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 they're just ghosts.
yeah. It just goes to just Count Chocula.
But what was very interesting, though, yeah, no more Count Chocula's, man. I won't even eat the cereal. What was very interesting is I've had several shadow people experience in my life. And when this all happened, they were far away from me. And it was a very clear message. They couldn't hurt me. They couldn't even get near me. But I was seeing, 15-foot tall translucent people leaning up against the bank in full like leather armor, where I could see every detail of their clothing, except they were totally see-through. I could just see them as like a white outline, always with the white wispy shit. Uh,
Like,
So
oh, like
ether.
totally see through, like you're talking like kind of, yeah, like ether, but also maybe like predator, when the predator
Exactly.
goes into that cloaking. So they're
Completely
cloaked almost.
cloaked, but I could see every detail of their face and their clothes. It was just black, and it was translucent. I couldn't ascertain any color in the translucent beings, but um I mean, there was one, clearly a teenager, who was somersaulting in the traffic just to distract me. It was like I could see them and they knew I could see them, and they were okay with it. But before that, I'd had so many experiences with shadow people that were always very negative. It was very interesting that when my mind was blown open, I know now they can't hurt me, they can't touch me, because I'm filled with the grace and spirit of God. And so I cried. I cried on my way home, and I just thanked him to have the sight to see all of the things that are there always, and they're so beautiful, and we can't see them. But we have to see the evil to know how good we have it and how much we're loved. You know.
I think yes, like Brad and I talk about this. Brad from the Awaken podcast, we talk
Hmm.
about this, and he's brought it up that he believes that God limited our sight so that we don't go insane because of all possibly the evil that is out there that could drive us nuts. Like maybe
Right.
we're not ready for it. So maybe you are ready, and you ready for some of it at least.
Right. Oh
Because
yeah.
I believe there's so much more out there that because we see less than 1% of all the light spectrum. So that's really
It's
telling us.
crazy to think about that. It's crazy to think that oh my gosh, yeah. There's stuff around us at all times. I mean, how many different phases of existence do we live on this planet with? I feel like heaven is right here with us. It's just a phase shift away, and
Yes,
so,
I've said many times as well. It's like we're in this Russian nesting dolls. Like those nesting
yes,
dolls were one upon the other, upon the other, upon the other,
yes,
and we just
absolutely.
don't know it. We just
Right.
don't know it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that really just, I said thank you, for trusting me and believing in me, and so that's what I think faith really is having faith and knowing that God loves us enough to show us what we can handle. And we don't know what we can handle. You know, he's
We
limitless. He
don't.
knows.
Yes,
So,
we don't know until it actually happens as well. It's like, okay,
right.
maybe not. Maybe I'm not ready for that one just yet. Yes.
Right, right. And so because of that, I can see all kinds of things now, and for a long time I was just seeing really bad stuff, but I'm never scared now because uh, there's no reason my loving God would give me an ability to terrify me, you know. And so, and I also have a 12-year-old son with autism, and I do believe that my extra enhanced abilities as of recently are to protect him because he sees everything. And I think a lot of the kids do. And I think a lot of people do until they're told they don't, and that's
They
not
can't.
real,
Yeah.
right?
Is when you're saying he's seeing things, are you talking along the lines of like the telepathy tapes kind of
Sure
thing?
am. Yeah.
All right,
So
there we go.
I'm sure he can read my mind, and I wish he wouldn't, but so about 3 years ago, he started exhibiting fear, real fear, and it was the first time in his life. And so, I quickly came to the realization that a demon had taken up residence in my house to antagonize him and to torment him. And I've got recordings, audio recordings of this thing saying his name and saying, "Give me the boy." The boy sees everything, like scary stuff. But I was just like, well, this can't happen. And this is kind of what started the whole, first awakening bit. But as a side note, I realized it's around the same time that my bed shakes a lot. And I always, just pass it off to cats under my bed because I got a lot of cats. And then I realized that my bed had been shaking for about 15 years. And at the very beginning of it, I'm sorry. At the beginning of it, there were cats in my room that would do it. But in this new house for the last 12 years, I never had cats in my bedroom. And so there was no reason my bed should be shaking. And so then I realized there's something trying to get my attention. And I have an attachment for whatever reason. And that's a whole long story. But he's a good guy. He's my guardian angel, basically. But so when it came down to it, I just basically said, oh, well, I don't really know if I want to tell my cat story. I guess I should. So
Let's do it. Let's do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, we're almost to the end of it and all my big revelations. Okay. So the demon moved in and I didn't know how to move out, but I was getting all these audio recordings, and then I was in my living room one day, and there were some shadows up in the corner of the room behind me moving, and I saw them in the reflection of my big TV screen in front of me. So a friend of mine suggested the next day I go in with a camera at the same time, same lighting, and see if the shadows are still there. And so I decided I was going to do one better and go make a recording. So I go in there with my video, and I record my TV straight ahead for 3 minutes. And as I'm turning off the video, I look down in my lap and I see a cat. And I say to my boyfriend, "Do you see these cats?" And he says, "Yeah." But I didn't have any recording of the cats. So basically in this recording, you can see this foggy stuff manifesting in the reflection of my TV, and it looks like it's right in the front of the TV. And so after 3 minutes, when I turned off the recording, I've got a cat in my lap, and then I've got a cat to the left of me and a cat to the right of me, a foot and a half apart. And beyond them are cats a foot and a half apart. And at my feet is a cat and four more cats straight in a line. So all 10 cats are in front of me, building a wall between me and my TV, which is about 8 feet in front of me. And so this thing was manifesting in between me and the TV, not behind me like I thought. And
Okay.
so
Do you feel that you've accumulated this like 10 like these cats? Is it maybe out of like this?
it's divine intervention. And it's not
Yes,
because I
like
didn't fix the
this
damn things.
subconscious protection almost in a
Yeah,
way, or
not even subconscious. They were sent to me to protect my son. I'm 100% sure of it. What freaked me out the most was these cats are telepathic, and they decided to talk to each other and line up in a wall in front of me.
yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, it was just like they knew that that's
Because
what
I'm
had to
surrounded
happen.
by cats now, and they're talking to each other. So now I have a cat joke. How many cats does it take to keep a demon out of your house?
10. Yes.
26.
26. Okay, there we go. There we go. Yes.
10, you're totally on the right path. Exactly. But, the demon was still there. So only a day or two later, I was laying down in my son's room with him. And, like in a bad movie, the comforter started getting pulled off my feet at 4 in the morning. And it was just, I could feel it a foot and a half away from me. And I was like, no. And it did it a second time. And I said, all right, that's it. Boyfriend, I was addressing my attachment. Boyfriend, I don't know who the fuck you are or why you're here, but you're on Team Michelle. So now you're on Team Chayton. Get this demon the fuck out of my house. And never had a problem since. And it's just, you got to take that assertion and be like, this is my house, my space, and you're not going to come into it. You
I
can't.
agree.
You just
I
have to
agree.
throw it out and have faith that you were given these gifts for a reason, and you have all the power in the world to take your space back. And so I had to, but I also had to call upon my attachment, my help, and thank God he's there. Thank God we all have teams. So
Yes, yeah, I agree. I believe wholeheartedly that we have guardian angels watching over us that are there, to protect us. And I think we actually have to call on them to help us. It is important because otherwise they cannot take action unless we actually
right, you
ask
got to
them to.
believe in them too. You got to
Yep,
ask them and know that everybody has to have a team behind them. You got to have that support, and you've got it. You just have to know to ask for it. I agree.
got to ask for it. Yeah, ask
Yeah,
for help. Yeah,
right. Always. It's hard for some people, but then there's all these people that would rather just call us crazy. And I think one of the reasons that I was given, I believe it's discernment, but I think I was given it because I had to learn how subtle evil can be and how insidious it is just by being so subtle. The
it,
devil
you know
works
what?
in very small ways.
I think that's so true because it's so much easier for the devil to get inside to your house or inside to your place by being sometimes kind or just not so evil that people think it is. It's
Right.
kind of like it'll work its way in, and because it has to be allowed in. Yeah,
Right. Yeah. And it's so easy when people don't even realize what they're doing just by shutting somebody's down, you're opening that door a little bit for more evil to get into you. And so it's like witchcraft or psychic ability. So, or magic, let's just say magic.
okay.
I really, for a long time, didn't want to be any kind of practicing Wicked or anything of the sort because I'm a hardcore Christian at heart. It's just how I was raised. And that's not changed, but I do believe that these are God-given gifts, and a lot of the Christian religion has been just not forgotten, but completely falsified throughout the years, and that's the devil. That's the subtle devil's work, getting us to a point where we can't even believe in ourselves and our own abilities. So I'm just here to tell all the Christians demons are real, whether you like it or not. You got to
And
believe in that part of the Bible too. Sorry.
yes, I agree, and we also have to know that we have the power to be able to exercise as long as we're doing it properly to tell them to get out,
Yes.
to put it that way. It's just
Right.
we have that ability, and um I feel that we are sometimes just what's the word I'm looking for? We I said this. So I've said this to so many times. I think we as a species are governed, and I don't mean by like a government. I believe that we are, muffled. Our abilities are somehow reduced, and there's something out there that's causing this, and we
Right.
have such more. We have so much more potential, that is there, but it is governed, such as like a car is governed that can't go past a certain speed limit. I believe that we are governed and we
Absolutely.
can't do certain we're being prevented from doing certain things. That's what I'll say. It's not that we can't, we're just being prevented.
Absolutely. And I think just it's insidious, and it's just we're in a we're in a spiritual warfare, and it's going to get way worse, but we know we win. So, just got to get to that.
We do know we win, but we have to play our part. That's
Yes.
one thing I will say is we can't sit back and just be like, we'll win. No, we're
Right.
not going to
No.
win if we do that.
Well,
Yes.
the wonderful thing about that is we're all waking up at the same time, right? And so I think something is coming. Absolutely. I think the tide has turned for belief. You see my cat? It's not a scary ghost. It's a little black cat trying to get in the door there.
There we go. There we go.
Sorry.
Yes. That's okay. That's okay.
It just caught me off
Well,
guard.
Well,
Sorry.
Michelle, do you have any other experiences you want to share, or do we gonna wrap it up at this point here?
We can wrap it up for sure. I mean, I've got
Okay.
lots of UFOs and stuff to talk about, but mm, you know,
We can always save it for another time,
so
or
maybe another time.
a
Yeah.
live, maybe a live. I
Oh,
sometimes
that'd be
I don't do. I
awesome.
don't. I don't do them often. Where I'll bring some of my
Yeah.
some of the listeners or viewers on, and they'll share some experiences, and then we'll go through. I haven't done one of those in a long time, but maybe in the near future, I should be doing
Sure.
something like that.
That'd be awesome. I'd be happy to be a part of that. And anytime, I'm always home. So I haven't got a
Fan-
job yet. So if I ever do, it might change. But I've
it'll
always
come.
got evenings.
It'll come. It will come, Michelle.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. I'm actually looking to get a job on the coast. So I'm like, yay, ocean.
Oh, that. Yes, yes. It it's
Except
just
I'm
over
mostly
here. Yeah.
right, exactly. Yeah, it's not too far. So thank you so much, Bri, for the opportunity. I really love your show, and I was happy to be able to do this with you as my first podcast. So thank you.
I really appreciate that, Michelle. And I think I'm honored that you chose my show to do that. So thank you so much.
No, thank you too.
All right, everyone. That was Michelle, and she was bringing in some amazing experiences, and it was a glimpse into her life touched by fire, we'll say, because that's how it seemed to all start. But there was also not just that. It wasn't just fire, it was shadow, light, and of course love as well. She didn't just survive these strange experiences. You can tell that she's learned from them, and she's grown through them, and she's literally came out the other side, something that most of us would, are still searching for, which is clarity. She's come out with clarity through all this chaos, and faith through the fear as well, which is something, a lesson we should all take. So whether you believe in like demons or Count Chocula's or UFOs or time warping ether, one thing is for certain though, something is happening, and people like Michelle aren't here to convince you. They're here just to remind you that the veil is much thinner than we think, and you just have to look for it. And again, I'm Rye the Codega. This has been another journey through the Codex. And until next time, keep your curiosity wandering, keep the light lit, and always find your way home.
stars where shadows grow. The Nephilim's echoes whisper low. Bigfoot roams through the forest deep, and Dogman prowls where the brave won't sleep. Across lost history we wonder why, seeking the truth that time tried to hide. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit. Through the darkness, don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come, and always find your way back home. UFOs streak through the velvet skies. Aliens watch with unblinking eyes. The paranormal hums where silence breaks. In the void of secrets, a lantern wakes. Through hidden realms and stories untold, the Codex flame is a light to hold. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit. Through the darkness, don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come, and always find your way back home. UFOs streak through the velvet skies. Aliens watch with unblinking eyes. The paranormal hums where silence breaks. In the void of secrets, a lantern wakes. Through hidden realms and stories untold, the Codex flame is a light to hold. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit. Through the darkness, don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come, and always find your way back home. Legends rise from the earth's deep core, a lost legacy we can't ignore. With every step, the veil grows thin, revealing worlds where the strange begins. Keep your curiosities wandering and the light lit. Through the darkness, don't ever quit. In the Codex, the mysteries come, and always find your way back home. Giants, cryptids that call, aliens, histories will